first. Before giving a gyan, I should have made some money, right? Uh, but yeah, for the last 10 years, I've been running some businesses and I've made some money, so I can, with some confidence, talk about it. So I've got two products which were both acquired, and I've got the third one. I've got some strategic partnerships for it. So that's about myself, a short intro. So, before someone talks to me, so someone talks about health to me, and I said, you don't look like someone who can talk about health to me. So, that's why I want to clarify. I'm not the unicorn or anything like that, but I've been running something for 10 years, so I have some experience that I can share. Okay. And I was told there are some entrepreneurs already and some students, and some are known faces I can see, so you might see a repeat of what you might have already heard, so excuse me for that. I am not one of those smart people in the class, or I've always been an outstanding student, if you know what I mean. Outstanding student. So, so I'm not one of you guys, but learned a few things over time. I did a few degrees. I don't know why I did it. I have like 4 masters, but the 4th one was a useful one. I did my MBA from Melbourne Business School, and since then I started my business in 2013. So now I'm 41. Been running it for 10 years. So this is about myself. Okay. Now this is a hypothetical question, but why do you want to do a startup, or why do you want to even run a business? You could just find the best job in the world and just go sit there. It's more easy life, right? Why do you want to even do this hardship? You might have heard a lot of quotes about Steve Jobs. There's one popular one which I like. He said, if someone is sane, he will quit. Have you heard this? If someone is sane, they will quit. They will not run a business, because you need insanity to do it. So why do you want to run? Why do people run a business? So these are, you could have some of the reasons that you may relate to, like, I want to achieve big, I want to do something innovative, blah, blah, blah. But why do you run a business? One answer.
When we cook some food, I want to taste it. Okay. So I'm a researcher. We make a lot of things and I want to see people taste the result.
That's a fine question once again. So you would have definitely been offered the best job in some really good organization. Why not that? Why do you want to run a business? There's a big difference. Like, I quit my corporate job and started this, so I know both. Am I too loud? I kind of know both. So why this instead of that? Yeah. Something achieve. So there is a lot of reasons we will line up. So there was a question that was in my personality assessment. They said, if there's no more need for money, what will you do? I said, I'll still run a business. So, that's because I want to do it. But then at the end of the day, we all run for money, right? So this whole session is about revenue streams and pricing, because at the end of the day, whatever we do, we want to monetize it. We could give all the reasons. So that's what I want to start with that. So we're going to look at 2 things. One is revenue models. All of these are common sense, okay? Nothing that's going to be like new or something that you haven't heard of before. We're just going to put it to perspective in the next couple of 90 minutes or so. I would rather make it more interactive. If you have a feedback or thought to share, please do so. I'll just share what I think is right. But if you want to disagree, please feel free to do so. Okay, so there's 2 topics. My favorite is pricing strategies. But revenue models is something where we start, but both are quite interlinked, okay? Before that, do you have anything to mention or anything to share before we go into this boring session? Okay, we'll start. Okay, so if you just browse revenue streams, there's loads of information that you will get, okay? There's all the models that they say, subscription fee, licensing fee, leasing, channel partners, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to summarize them into a few models which I can relate, okay? As I said, I am not the brightest person in the world, so if I can understand, I hope you would also understand. That's why I want to always make sure I can understand it, right, in the first place. So there's a recurring model. You could call it subscription, you could call it licensing, but there is something that is going to be recurring instead of a one-off. So recurring model is what most businesses, be it a SaaS startup or a product or a manufacturing, they always want to have a recurring model. So I believe whatever will get us to a recurring revenue model is the most likely one. So let's take a simple example. Is Swiggy a transactional model or a recurring model? Yeah, on an outset, it looks like a transactional model. You pay for a food, but haven't they done everything to make it recurring? You know that Swiggy Plus or whatever membership, they make the delivery fee. Why are they doing it? To make it a recurring model. So transactional models are good. Amazon, is that a transactional thing or a recurring thing? Subscription is their goal. Okay, so you just buy an Amazon Prime membership. What do you get? Absolutely, but they have just made it way more than that. Music, Prime membership in TV. So why do they make all this free? Why do they make all the music free? I have to pay for Spotify. I am paying for Spotify, but I still get Amazon Music because I just take an Amazon Prime membership for shopping. Why do they make all this a bundle? This recurring model is what most of us want to be in. Okay, and when it's a recurring model, you have this loyalty, platform loyalty. So if I have a Swiggy membership, I don't even know what Zomato has to offer. Okay, I can kind of get sticky. So recurring models are the most preferred ones. So whatever model it is, they want to get to a recurring model. So have you been to like lifestyles and things like that? They give you this membership thing. To me, it means nothing, but why do they do it? Like membership card, phone number, it's all to make you believe that you are part of them and you come back to them. So there's, let's say, lifestyle, and then there's Marks and Spencer's and H&M. What will be my first choice? Because I have a lifestyle membership, and then I enter lifestyle, right? Then H&M is introducing the same. But you get the point. Recurring models, whatever business it is. So I may be a little biased towards SaaS and things like that because that's my background. But even if it's a manufacturing, so especially in the IIT sessions, like some of the previous sessions, I learned SaaS is not the only startup. There's like so many other interesting, exciting startups. So even if I am a little biased towards it, you could apply to whatever you are thinking. Okay, so recurring model is the most preferred one, and then there's the transactional model, which is fairly easy, right? Like you do it as a one-off transaction, but then so everyone. If you think of anything, airline ticketing, whatever it is, you can see they are transactional, but they always want to go to the recurring model. Is that right? What do you have in terms of gold membership and platinum membership and launch accesses and all those things are to make your transactional things into a recurring one. So recurring model is probably what people are going for. And then there are the other ones, which is like an affiliate model. I have another one which is very related to it, which is channel partners. So your sales through an affiliate or a channel partner. That is really, really important in some scenarios as well. For example, we introduced an enterprise B2B product. Okay, with all due respect, the product was really good, but I know I cannot go stand in an European conference and sell because of various reasons. So I have to find a channel partner there who is a local, who understands the dynamics, who knows the language, who knows the people, and they have a market. So I have to partner with them. I will go next to them and just say, I am the product manager of this product, and he is the person who knows everything about the product. I have never had any reluctance to say that he is the main person and I am a product manager despite it's my product. Why? Because I know at that point he or she is the person who can take me to the market. So we had one of the ways we cracked out of this hard enterprise B2B product. I don't know how many of you are into software. An enterprise B2B product is quite hard to crack, as you may know, sir. Right? Enterprise B2B, first thing they ask is, who are you? Your product could be the greatest thing, but who are you is the question which we cannot crack. So I needed channel partners to be able to crack that hard thing. And then we ended up in a strategic partnership with a larger company to crack that. We grew from 0 to 500 customers with around 100 Fortune 500 customers in 4 years. But all that happened because we were able to partner with the right companies. Okay, so that's another model you need to think of. If you are not able to hit a market, that's not the end of the game. Find someone who can hit the market. Do not be reluctant to dilute your stakes or your position or whatever, your ego. In my case, it was my ego. I need to stand next to him and say, I'm nothing, he is the person, because that's when they get the trust. It's unfortunate, but it happened. So affiliate model, there's many things. Like even Amazon has an affiliate model, right? Like all the resellers are like affiliates in Amazon. That's a good platform. Aggregators. Are you thinking of aggregator model? Aggregator model is the business today, right? Like Amazon, what are they? Aggregators. Flipkart, aggregators. Everyone is an aggregator. Even Uber and Ola, I think they are being replaced with this Rapido guys. Rapido guys are becoming an aggregator as opposed to a cab provider. Did anyone read that news? So Rapido is making cab a subscription-based service. Have you heard it? No? Okay, see, the biggest problem with Uber and Ola was drivers and commissions and issues, right? So Rapido is changing it into a Netflix-like model. So they use it. The more you drive, the more premium you pay. The more money you make, the more premium you make. So you're not paying me a fixed cost. So they are changing from a fixed basis to an like a on-demand usage kind of a basis. So innovation in revenue models is very important, is what I'm trying to emphasize. Uber and Ola kind of dominated the market, and all of a sudden, have anyone been to Karnataka recently? In Bangalore, there's this auto guys. I don't know. Sorry? And yeah, that is done by a CEG guy, a guy who was from College of Engineering, Guindy. He volunteered to partner with Karnataka government and did it like for nothing. And that's an amazing thing. Have you seen it? Like it's just the same thing, leasing. Auto rickshaws lease it as opposed to paying a fixed commission. So your product need not follow precedence that has already been there. They could have easily followed what Uber and Ola has done globally, but now they are changing it. And that is making a huge difference. So I think, again, revenue models, whatever, as I said, all these are something that you see on a day-to-day basis. It's just to put it to perspective, to say, we had a session a couple of weeks back here, and he was, they have some really interesting product, but they have a competition from like a global player as well. But the global player is very expensive. He was trying to sell against them, but then we found out if they could find people who can rent it. They cannot rent an expensive product, but the people need it. They want it occasionally, not to own it. So if we could find a rent model, it will work. And it kind of was a spark for them, and they kind of went back and said, okay, we'll work on a rental model where the service providers can rent their equipment as opposed to an expensive international one. So changing the parameters slightly will be a make or break in a business. So you hit a bummer sometimes, just take a step back and see if there's another model that we can apply. Is that making sense? I'm sure it is just obvious. And then we have the usage-based model. This works very well when, I think this example that I just said, when you have a product that's either very expensive or it's not a day-to-day use. Okay, they were having something that will be used occasionally. So I design something, I want to test it. Like this is their use case. They have the testing facility, but let's say it's like you buying an X-ray machine at home. Why would you buy an X-ray machine at home? You don't want to take X-rays every day. Similar thing was for him. So if we could set up an X-ray facility, then people could come and take it when they want. That's the exact model we applied as opposed to trying to sell X-ray machines. So just changing the model slightly has been very helpful as well. I really don't know what your background is, like what businesses you're focusing on. I know a few people I've met, but others, if you have a specific question to your industry, this could be a workshop. So you raise it. Something that I say may not be making sense, you just raise it. Let's brainstorm it, come to a conclusion. That will be even more helpful. Okay, it's not a monologue, and as I said, I've been an outstanding student. I've never sat in classes, okay? And I cannot take sessions for a long period of time. So I'm being mindful. If you have questions, please ask, okay? And if there aren't any questions, that means two things. One is either I'm like really, really clear, or I'm totally hopeless, so I hope it is not the latter. But anyways, so there are some other revenue models which are the conventional and tested models. So licensing and retail and channel sales, direct or indirect sales. These are something that you know. But there is one model called freemium model, which I'm sure most of you would have heard. But it's a very powerful utility. Okay, so one person I know very well, he is the founder of an app called Where Is My Train? I don't know how many people have used it, but Where Is My Train? His name is coincidentally Nizam as well. Okay, so they made, how much would they have made? Like they ran it for 2.5 years. How much would they have made? Any guess? Zero, because there was no pricing. He was very clear, no advertisements, no subscriptions, nothing. It's a full free service. So he was kind of inspired by WhatsApp. The reason WhatsApp is this successful compared to Viber and any other apps is they were very clean. No, do you see any ads in WhatsApp? No subscription, no ads, but they still have a model, right? That's what he figured out. They were acquired by Google for quite a good money, like a couple of years back. You could read that story, it's in the internet anyways. But what he did was, he didn't even go to the freemium model, free model. And he is working in the second app now, he is following the same model. He is like pretty clear, this is my strength. I can build an app that can make vibes, but I don't know how to even charge $1 for it. This is his problem. I met him, like I kind of talked to him. So his problem is I cannot charge even $1 for it, but I know how to make it like a phenomenon. So at the time of acquisition, his app was having around 2 million visitors a day compared to 21 million Google had. Google Maps had 21, his app had 2 million at the time of acquisition. Imagine, that was he was very clear. 2 years, I bear the grunt and I run the show, but I know it is going to be taken over by someone. There were people lined up, like there was quite a few people who were like lined up to take it. So that is another model. Have you thought about it? Not many have that grit to do it, but it's a clear success. You can go read it. Where Is My Train is the thing. And the same with WhatsApp. WhatsApp, how much was it acquired for? That's staggering money, $6.4 billion. Was it? I thought 6.4, no, okay. 18 billion then, I don't know what it translates to Indian rupees, but, but 18 billion for what? Yeah, just the users. So you are not, you are the victim, like you are the price. So they are not charging any money from you. So thanks for correcting, sir. But that's the model that is less explored, but you could think of it as well. Right? And then is the freemium model, which every one of us would have seen, right? What is the, I don't know, whatever you use, whatever app you use, be it Strava, Garmin, whatever it is, there is a free model, and then there are some sweet spots where they will say you need to pay, correct? So that is something that is, especially for a SaaS startup, for an internet startup, that's a very good model as well. Is that making sense? Okay. Now, how do I choose what is the right model? Okay, I have, some of you who would have who would have met me before, you would have heard this. ABC of business is STP. If you don't do STP, you are definitely missing out on your business model. This is my strong take, and I kind of stand by it. STP is the ABC of business. Segment, target, and then position. You cannot take one mallet and just try to whack it and think it will work. You need to know what's the right instrument for the right audience, right? Like you would have heard all this. I think the previous sessions would have covered this. But I would strongly suggest, if you haven't done till now, please go home and think, what are the different segments, which are the attractive segments for me, and for that segment, what will be the right pricing model? What is the right revenue model? Is that making sense? Just for example, I don't have a problem. If I am here, I pay a subscription, that's fine. But if I'm a tourist, I will still need that service. But if you are trying to push a subscription model on me, will I take it? I will not. I would rather take something that's a transactional model, correct? If I have a problem in using my credit card or whatever because I'm a tourist, and if you give me a channel or a retail outlet where I could go buy, then that's a better option for me. So depending on who you are targeting, their preference will definitely change. So the first thing, this is the same I will repeat in the pricing as well. STP is something that you need to do. And if you haven't done, please spend some time doing it. Segment. So what is a segment? So there are 1 billion people out there. Can you sell to everyone? If someone says I can sell to everyone, I really want to know more. There's nothing that can sell to everyone, right? So firstly, out of 1 billion people, there's going to be patterns which you can identify. And in that patterns, there are some segment which will be attractive to you. And identify 2-3 segments, design a model for each of them. Is that right? Am I making sense? So segment, target and position, and then try multiple options on each one of them. Do not try one and say this, I think it's not working for me. That's not the answer. Try something else. Okay, it's a trial and error. Like, I learned as well. I'll share one of my learning as we go along. I got my pricing very bad, and then I corrected it based on some reflection. Okay, I'll explain why I got it wrong and how I got it right. Okay, so that is an experimental thing. If someone says startups are error free, you could just have a breeze, don't trust them. Okay, so I'm a big fan of Michael Porter. Have anyone heard of Michael Porter? Okay, great. So my company's name is called Sixth Force, which is Porter says 5 forces, there's a 6th force. So I'm that big a fan of Michael Porter, but Michael Porter failed in his business. You know that, sir? So Michael Porter failed in his business. He is the strategy guru, okay? But he failed in his business. So you cannot have theory that, to translate to the real business. Steve Jobs was replaced by 3 CEOs who were the best in the world at that time. Since Steve Jobs was evicted, 3 CEOs replaced him. They were the best in the world. No one were able to revitalize Apple till Steve Jobs came back. You know all this story, right? So theory doesn't mean it will work. You really have to try it out. Okay, so that's why I try not to use a lot of theory, but I inevitably use it. But it's about learning, trial and error. So now that's kind of what I wanted to share about revenue models. It again goes back to, for the right segment, right revenue model and the mix of it. Okay, the same will be repeated in pricing as well, but we'll see a completely different approach for the pricing. Do you have any questions before we move on? If you have a problem, yes, please. Yeah. Okay, see, let's take the simplest segmentation is demographics, or let's say age. Okay, so teens, and then up to 18, and then 20 to 30, and 31 to 45. So that's a segment, right? Now, which of this segment is your interest? Yeah, that's what. So one of the segment is your target segment, or one or more segment is your target segment. So that's what targeting is. Okay, now out of these 4 age groups, there are 4 segments. Now I've identified 4 segments. Now my target segment is 18 to less than 18, or maybe 18 to 28. These are the 2 segments that I am targeting. Now you need to define your advertisement, your positioning, your pricing, your revenue models, everything for these people. Okay, my daughter is 14, 15 now, and she calls me a boomer. I don't know why, but if you have a marketing messaging for her, that's not going to work for me, right? If you have a model that is appealing for the Gen Zs, that's not going to appeal for someone like me. So that's why knowing which target segment you're going to focus will define your revenue model, your pricing, your advertising, your pitch, everything will change. Am I making sense? So target segment is 1 or 2 of the segments out of the bigger segmenting. So segmenting, choosing which is my attractive segment. That's my target segment. Only if you know that clearly, your marketing messaging will work. It will not work otherwise. You cannot give a message that appeals to me and expect that will appeal to my daughter, right? It's a completely different thing. And you cannot do the same as well. You cannot have a messaging that appeals to a teenager and try to, sell it to me. Only if I'm a wannabe, I'll try to do that, which I'm not. So you need to really know who is my right segment. Is that making sense? And the same applies to pricing. I'll be repeating this once again, but I would say A, B, C of business is this. Okay, it will strike sparks in your mind. Like, you will see spark, because once you know this is my segment, then everything will change. If you're working on a wrong segment, then you're missing out on a lot of things. Correct? Positioning is for that target segment. What is everything? So revenue, pricing, market messaging, everything is on that target segment. That is positioning yourself for that target segment. Is that making sense? So if you don't position yourself for that target segment, you're kind of missing out. See, if I am to sell a luxury car, I need to know whom I am selling it to, right? So there is, I spoke about this previously as well. So there is, like, if I'm looking at a Cayenne, like a Porsche website, it will be having a same display, but there will be 3 models. A model was 86 lakhs, another model was 1.46. And both had only 1 liter engine difference. Okay, for someone who is oblivious of it, they will say, why am I to pay like double for a liter? It's a 2 liter versus a 3 liter. Okay, there's a 240 versus a 360. But that is the messaging that will reach to that segment. So if you see a Cayenne versus a Cayenne S, you can see it's double the price. But who will know Cayenne and Cayenne S is just a 1 liter difference? Is that making sense? So only the people who know it will know it. For others, it wouldn't make a sense. But if you try to sell to someone who doesn't know, the people who are actually going to buy will not buy. Okay, if I come and say, hey, this Porsche has Bluetooth, alloy wheels, and this and that, that's good for a Hyundai, but not for a Porsche. For a Porsche, it's a Porsche. It's only the numbers that speak. So that's why I'm saying, this, whom you're selling to makes a big difference. Right? See, even in B2B, okay, I am from a B2B background, so I can talk a little more on it. See, I have enterprise architecture based tool, okay. First thing, out of 486 clients, I have 0 Indian clients. Okay, that in itself shows that I know what my segment is, because I cannot sell to the Indian service companies is not my segment. So I have to go after people who have the interest to do architecture and processes. So so first thing is I have to identify who are the companies who will be interested in enterprise architecture and business process, all the stuff that doesn't add any value. Okay, it's just the strategy and things like that. Indian service companies, it's like I build it, I get a rate, I make money, that's it. I don't care about like strategy, 10 years vision. But there are a whole lot of companies. So I need to know who are the companies who are investing in strategy. Who are the companies who have a mandate for compliances? So automobiles are our favorite customers. Why? Because they have a lot of standards. European safety standards, like there's a lot of standards that they have to comply. Financial institutions, because they have a lot of compliances. Those are the people I have to go after. If I try to do all my efforts on someone who is not doing this, then I'm wasting my time. So we kind of identify only these verticals and then try to approach them through their LinkedIns and all the other conferences. So I attend conferences left, right, and center, but I will pick the conferences where these people are there. If I go attend a conference that's happening in Bangalore, I will be wasting my time. Is that making sense? So that's why I know whom I have to go after. So I spend the time and effort to go attend conferences in Las Vegas and Los Angeles because I know they are the ones who are going to buy my product. And my market messaging will be for them. So it's very obvious in B2B because you cannot afford to waste time. B2C, at least you have a lot of people, right? You have 1 billion people. But B2B, you only have a handful. And you need to know where to invest your time. They say like 80% of your sales time is wasted, but you just don't know which 80% is wasted. So you need to really optimize whom you are going after. Okay, so is that making sense? Same with, like, there was there's a company and they have some materials. They were very clear. I mean, it's in IITM incubation cell as well. So they are very clear. They have to go after ISROs and DRDOs because they are the ones who can afford it. They are not even looking at any small players, but they are spending a year to convince them, which is well worth it. If you don't know that these are your segment, and if you are trying to spend that 1 year convincing a factory in Sri Perumbudur, like who is doing some manufacturing, then you are wasting your time. So I think it's even more important in B2B than B2C. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Now, the next thing is on pricing. I'm specifically talking about value-based pricing, but let me just ask you this question. If someone says this, what will the recipient be willing to pay? Sorry? Pretty much whatever they have, right? Now, let's say this needle is going to cost me $2. And if I say $4 for the price, I'm making 100% profit. Who is winner here? The customer is the winner because for him the value is like take everything I have. But for him, what he has chosen is a conventional cost-based pricing. If I say my cost of manufacturing, marketing, everything put together is $2, I'm going to sell it for $4, I make 100% margin, I'm a winner. No. Correct? But in reality, then you will have all these other people who will come and lower it. Like, I sell it for $1,000. So it's not always optimal. Like, that's not always the scenario unless you find a segment where that is the case. There are some scenarios like that as well. Again, it was all a learning for me. There are many startups here who is operating in a space which is well governed by regulations. There's an embargo, there is like a ban on anything that is competing against them. So everything is coming from either Europe or China and it's all an embargo. Then what does it mean? They have a free run. It's their pricing. They take it or they leave it. I mean, that's the first one. But anyways, it's usually not like that. So now the customer is the winner. If there is more people, keep just lowering the prices. But what we are going to see in the next couple of slides is why we need to look at, out of all the pricing strategies, value-based pricing is what we are actually paying today to everyone. And why they are choosing value-based pricing as opposed to cost-based pricing. What is the first thing will come to our mind, like a normal layman's mind when we talk about pricing? Is cost-based pricing. Correct? If I want to sell this pen, what will you think? Okay, to manufacture this, it cost me like 7 rupees. Let me just price it at 10 rupees and sell. Correct? That is, what is that? That's cost-based pricing. That's a very old model. That's really an old model. Okay, so I could buy a watch for like $100. I could buy a watch for 10,000. I could buy for 100,000. Is it the cost of manufacturing or is it something else? Exactly. Perceived value. Willingness to pay of the customer. And what is his perceived value? That's exactly right. And that's what we need to understand while pricing. And before I even go further, this goes back to, yes sir. Gauge, but yeah, that's where the challenge is, but there are ways to do it. But that is where you need to play, not on a cost base, because if you are playing cost based, you are losing it. Because let's say you are manufacturing 1,000 units, your cost will be, let's say $5. If someone is manufacturing 10,000 units, his cost will be just $3 because he is having economies of scale. You can never compete with a company which has economies of scale, and that's why we all lose to Chinese companies, because their economies of scale is unmatchable, right? So working on cost is a gone case. Only if you are a commodity, God forbid, you have to work on a cost-based model. Other than that, it's always some other pricing strategy. It could be a dynamic pricing, it could be whatever, but it's value-based pricing. Dynamic pricing, you would have all heard, right? If you book a flight ticket to, let's say, Delhi today for April versus you book something in March, is it going to be expensive? Yeah, because why? Because there's more people rushing for it at that time, and you simply call it dynamic pricing, but it's not dynamic pricing, it's again value-based pricing. At that time, someone who has to travel next week, for him the value of the travel is more than someone who is planning 6 months in ahead. Is that making sense? So I have an emergency, I need to travel, I need to travel. No second thought about it, I am happy to pay what you ask me. That is value. I mean, it could be called exploitation, that is secondary, but it's value-based pricing. We have to be a bit ruthless. If we can make money, we make money, right? So I'm sorry, I'm not that bad, I'm just telling you. But anyway, now there's an important thing to understand. Excuse me for these theory things, but this is a very important thing to understand. What is the elasticity of your demand? You need to know who are your target segments, and you need to understand, I'm sure you would have heard this already, so excuse me, but what is their elasticity? What is elasticity, okay? If I say this bottle of water is 10 rupees, how many of you will buy? Pretty much everyone, because I know you know this is the price. But if I say the same bottle is 100 rupees, how many of you will buy? No one. But if you are at the airport and I am the only store and I tell you 100 rupees which they say, how many of you will buy? Everyone, or whomever is thirsty at least, right? But if I say 1,000 rupees, you'll say I'll starve death. Out of death, I will not buy this, right? So that's what is elasticity. To what extent can you increase your price without losing your demand? You can push to a certain extent depending on circumstances, but if you push too much, then it's going to go bust. That's the elasticity. It's called simple curve. It's a price versus quantity. As your price rises, your quantity decreases. Is that simple enough to understand? If I sell it for 2 rupees, 10 people will buy. If I sell it for 4, 5 people will buy, let's say. That's PQ, very simple. But then it's not that simple because there is a lot of elasticity. Let's say a luxury brand, okay? If a luxury brand, let's say Mercedes for example, they used to sell the C classes for 45 lakhs, now they're selling it for 62 lakhs. How many of them have stopped buying it? I don't think anyone has. Because that's the price. I need a C class, that's the basic version. I need to get it. It's 45 lakhs, I pay it. At 62 lakhs, I pay it. There's no second thought about it. So elasticity in a premium segment is less because that's other things. It's not need. It's like luxury, it's like image, it's all those things. But in a very stringent market, elasticity is more. So you need to understand what elasticity. I'll just say these 2 lines and I'll move on. This line shows if price goes from P1 to P2, that is like, if it is let's say 10 rupees to 12 rupees, your quantity sharply declines. But if in this case, it declines only gradually. So you need to understand how much I can play with my pricing. It's very important because value-based pricing could be a make or break as well. You just go and say a number and they think it's absolutely worthless, then you are losing us as well. So you need to be very careful on what your pricing is and what is their willingness to pay. Same with the coffee, okay? My economics professor taught me with the coffee. So there is a cup of coffee which is, let's say, $5. If I am waking up in the morning and if that coffee is served to me this is exactly what my professor told, okay? So I have a coffee that's $5, but I have to get up, get out of my bed, walk downstairs, go and get it. That's $5. Now if the same coffee is coming to my bedroom and I've been served right when I wake up, how much will I be willing to pay for it? Okay, and that differs by numbers, right? Some people will say I would even pay like $15 for it because it's been served. Some will say maybe I'll give you $1 more, like But that is the difference in willingness to pay. The cost is $5, but that willingness to pay is where we need to play with it. Okay, so you need to really understand the elasticity of that customer. Okay, at what price will he say no? I don't want it. Okay, so that is something, again, theory, but please think about it. And now there are 4 common pricing strategies. Okay, there's a cost-based pricing, value-based pricing, competitive pricing, and dynamic pricing. These are the 4 common strategies. But this is obsolete, in my opinion, unless someone want to really challenge me. Cost-based pricing is obsolete. You cannot do a cost-based pricing unless you're only in a commodity. What is a commodity? Commodity business. I mean, I have my family who is in commodity business, so I know very well how hard it is. But anyone knows what's a commodity business? FMCG, manufacturing, where there is no differentiators. Yours, so this bottle of water compared to a Bisleri versus Aquafina or Kenley, this is 10 rupees, it's 10 rupees, right? You cannot say they try to say this is this and that, but you all know at the end of the day it's just water. There's no differentiation. Okay, so it's about volume business. They sell more volume to make money. But then same with the manufacturing. So someone I know is in automobile manufacturing, parts manufacturing. Their price is set by the supplier, by the automobile company. They will say do it at 8 paise per piece, and that's it. You take it or you leave it. If you leave, there's 10 other companies who can do it, because there's no differentiation. Yes. Yeah. 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 That's what. Except a commodity kind of a thing. It's not dead. I'm saying it's obsolete. Unless you are into volume and manufacturing and commodity, you cannot. In a commodity, you cannot say I have value, right? It's hardly any differentiators. They call POD, points of differentiators. And yours, I believe, if you are thinking of a startup idea, you're not thinking of a commodity. Correct? Yeah, most of us at least will not think of a commodity. You're not going to come here and say, I'm going to manufacture, I'm going to, start another water bottle company. I hope not. Okay, I know this is also someone I know, but it's not an easy business to be in. It's from professional courier, so that's my cousin. Anyways, so it's not an easy business to be in. You have to be with something that is innovative. I'm sure that's what you're trying to do. So cost-based pricing may not be applicable. I can rephrase it to say it's not applicable for us. Yeah. Yeah. Demand supply, if it is set by the market. See, if the market is setting your price, then you have to go cost-based pricing, or you go out of business. You either, yeah. Startup will not usually get into that these days. At least it's very hard to thrive in it. Okay, it's volume, like you said, it's volume, it's established channels. Companies who are doing it for a long time, manufacturing it in scale, they are the only ones who can do it now. It's at least my take. Okay, but value-based pricing is the basis for everything else. Okay, but value-based pricing, what is it? Okay, so again, I'm using water bottle as an example many times, but just because I raise my price doesn't mean it's value-based pricing. Okay, I'm going to introduce a premium product. What should I do? Name it an Italian name and price it high. That's the wrong strategy. You know this joke, right? How do I introduce a premium product? Just give an Italian name and price it high. Okay, they will think it's an expensive product. Or a French name. Yeah, French or an Italian name, and have a model on that European model, and you're in a premium product. No, that's not the game we are talking about. What we are talking about is, I'll just go to this. Okay, this is what I wanted to share. So there's a cost, there's a markup, and like Sir mentioned, it's a perceived value. If you price it here, who is the winner? A customer. So if I just price it here, it's the customer. You should price it in the middle, somewhere. I mean, how do I get this number is not a joke. I'm not saying it's that easy. But there's a perceived value, willingness to pay. You need to at least take half of it. Don't take 100% of it. That's quite rude. But you could take half of it for sure, because they are happy to pay as well. Correct? So that is what is value-based pricing. It's not about saying, I have an expensive product, I call it value-based pricing. That's not what it is. Is your customer willing to pay that? Okay? And then this is a wrong notion. Like, I had this misconception. I used to be a consultant most of my professional career before starting business, and I was always working on time. Okay, and my hourly rate was going high every year because of my experience. That is not value-based pricing. I am just charging a premium. Value-based pricing is, let's say this, okay, so I was working for a company called DWS. I mean, my company was called DWS. I was contracted for a telco called Telstra. My daily rates that they used to charge was around $1,600 a day. That is not value-based pricing. There was same Telstra hiring a BCG, Boston guys, for $9,000 a day. I would say that is value-based pricing. So just because I raise my price doesn't mean I'm charging by value. It's a commodity. I'm just a slightly premium commodity. But BCG need to sign a few things for proposals to go ahead, and they charge it. $9,000 a day is a lot of money even then. I mean, I'm talking about 2010, 11, but even then it was a lot of money. So that they know that their value, the customer will be willing to pay whatever they charge. Right? But this one, just because I increase my price, that's not value-based pricing. And just because I increase my price of a bottle of water doesn't mean I'm doing the value-based pricing. These are the misconceptions. I'm just trying to correct it. Real value-based pricing is understanding what your customer is willing to pay. Okay, I wanted to give you my example and then come back to this. Okay, and this is a very, very good example, an actual market study I'll talk about. But this is my personal reflection I just want to share. Okay, when I started my business here in 13, the biggest challenge for me was, as I said, I started as a training / consulting kind of a business to fix a daily rate. Okay, I went and asked a lot of people here, people in CTS, people in TCS, in the L&D department, to say, how much can I charge for a day training? Okay, and they were like, if you are the best in the world, if you are this smart, that smart, you can go up to 15,000 a day. Okay, this is exactly what they said, 15,000 a day. It didn't make sense to me. I said, but still, let me position it at 18,000 rupees a day. And then there was a company from Kerala who requested me for a quote. This is exactly what happened to me in my first month. Okay, requested me for a quote. I sent a quote that didn't go ahead. And then I'm talking to someone in Europe, like Gillian, and she says, I was in Kerala last week. I said, like, why? I was there doing some training. And that's when something struck me. Like, I've learned this. I've been formally educated on this. I should have just applied that learning rather than asking people. When that moment happened, I realized I got my pricing really wrong. Because when I said 18,000, they felt I'm not qualified enough to do the kind of training that they wanted.
Yeah, actually, just share this story of the he was a stand-up comedian. Any other software is also starting comedy. So one of the party going on in only the best. Girl called for the stand-up comedian. He said, okay, you give me 500. He said, $500. I said, no, 500 rupees because I am just doing as a hobby. So I'll come, you will just pay me from a taxi. And after that, she didn't call him back. At that time, he realized that he is underselling himself. He is not good. He's going to see that.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened to me. And then when I learned Gillian was here, Gillian is from UK, she offered the training, it really struck me hard. What have I been doing? And then I sat back and realized, see, I have learned, as I said, I did study, and I studied for really doing my business. So I said, if Gillian or someone from UK is coming here, they are paying at least 1,500 pounds to bring her here per day, I'm saying, per day. On top of it, flight and accommodation and all those things. So And if I leave them out, I'm the only one who can do this here at that time and even now. Like this is a very niche skill, okay, very niche skill. So I then went ahead with this pricing. Okay, and I'll tell you why I have 3 numbers. This is, I mean, to me, I feel this is a good example. If someone asks me, did your MBA pay off? I'll say, hey, I'll bet yes because of only this thing itself. I said, I want to price it at 59,000, which is that 1,500 pounds at that time in 2013. That is my benchmark. So they were willing to pay that. I wanted to keep that pricing. But that fear of startups, okay, what if I don't get anyone? Then I said, I will have another offering, which will be almost the same, but at a slightly lower price. And then again that fear will come, right? Like, what if I still don't get? Because people are saying 15,000 and I'm going all the way to 60,000 a day. This is 2013 I'm talking about, okay? And then I said, let me also keep a catch-all kind of a thing. But I will make sure I will not have the key things. This is where the positioning is. The key pointers that the customer wants, I purposely not included in this, did not include in this. Since then, 10 years, we've been doing the training. I did it for 4 years, and then I have a team of like 20 people doing this training now. How many times would we have sold this? Guess. Once. In 10 years, once. Okay, and that's because there's a 3-member team who really wanted to get trained. I said, I will offer you at this price because I want to just help them. No one has asked me this. And this is a proof, okay, that pricing is not about what others say, what you think people. Do you think an Indian company will pay 60,000 rupees a day for training? Yes, they do. They pay me 1 lakh today. Okay, it's not, they will pay. Only you need to position yourself strong. Okay, what in Indian way, what happens is they wanted this training at this price. I said, good. It's the same Nizam. I'll be sitting and shouting the same thing every day, whatever. Even if you give me 10,000 rupees, I'll do the same. Okay, but the customers wanted this training at this price. And now you go back and relate to any website you see, there'll be 3 columns. Why? There is one offer that will deliberately make the other offer attractive. Go, and the middle one and the expensive one. Everyone has this variation, but this is combining a lot of theories. What I used is called best alternative. Okay, it's called best alternative, which is if there is one price that the customer can get. If I am saying 10 rupees for this, if I don't sell it for 10 rupees, what is the alternative that they can get? If that price is 100 rupees, then I have to price it at 99 rupees. So best alternative is your best judge for value-based pricing. Is that making sense? That's what I learned by mistake. I did it at 18,000 and then the next training, and my first client was Ericsson. And from there, it's been a really positive run. But what I'm saying is pricing, you have to get it right to get the customers. Like you mentioned, 500 rupees, okay, go ahead. We don't want you. If you would have said $500, then they would think, okay, this guy has something big. Let's just invite him. But anyway, pricing is very subjective to your segment and be bold. Just compare what is their alternative, okay, and then have your positioning right. See, this hands-on sessions is things that my customers wanted, and I purposely did not include it here. So if I don't include a hands-on session, then they are not going for it. And in the 10 years, except that one client, no one even asked about this. Okay, and the pricing has just changed a little bit, but the lower end is still the same. Now, you could see that is pretty much everywhere, right? Then the software. How many of you are into software startups or something like that? What is the cost of building one version versus another version? Any difference? Like you have a software, you're compiling X versus compiling Y. What is your difference in cost? Nothing. Pretty much you are developing the same thing. But why are they pricing it this much? This different? Exactly. There's this why. So if you cannot go with the cost-based pricing in a software. Marginal cost is 0 in a software. So you need to go value-based pricing. So pick what, and everything matters. See, there's a lot of things you need to take into account, okay? Someone from an enterprise perspective, they will always be inclined to choosing an enterprise. That's why they call it something that he or she can quickly relate to. So everything matters. That's why I said STP, right? Once you know your target, then your messaging, your pricing, your revenue streams, everything will be right. Okay. Now I'll just talk about this one experiment. Okay. You could check in the internet as well. This experiment is something that was deliberately done to show how important value-based pricing is. Both are pregnancy test kits from the same company and the same product. One, as you can see, it's called Rapid View, and one is Quick View. This is packaged to look a little low in price, white, and this is more colorful. And in Walmart and in other places, they place this in contraceptives section. They place this in the baby food section. Okay, why? This one is for the fearfuls. They call the segment as fearfuls. This one is for the hopefuls. They call the segment as hopefuls. Parents, young parents who are hopeful. This one, you know. So they same product, different packaging, different messaging, different positioning. You can see that segment, okay, position, everything is different. This one was double the price of this, but this sold more. Okay, this is an actual experiment. You can check it in the internet. So that is the importance of packaging, positioning, messaging, everything. Okay, so same product, but you package it right and you position it right, you will have your revenue streams kicking in. Is that making sense? I mean, to me it was an eye opener when I saw that. Okay, and they did a lot of research, like to call it fearfuls and hopefuls, and the positioning is the key. Like, you know, place it in contraceptives versus placing it in the baby food section. Okay, so just an example. Okay, now that you could see it everywhere. Now I'm just going to reiterate it again and again. What is the difference between this, and this? I mean, I'm a Yes user for like 20 years now, but what is the difference between 23, 23 plus, 23 Ultra? Yeah, does this make any difference to anyone in this room? I'm honestly asking. I mean, I don't know. Slightly? Yeah, I think so, but maybe I'm not the one. I always go for the smallest one that I can carry, okay? But it's always, I was like S2, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 20, 21, 23. That's how I've been. But I've always stuck to this because I want something compact. I can stick it in my pocket. But the pricing, is that justified? You already mentioned iPhone, so I don't have to. No. You mentioned about iPhone. It's not about cost. It's about value, right? See, this difference in camera, how many people are going to use it? I'm sorry, I have no idea who will use it. You use it? No, you don't know, right? Like, it's about all, okay, 100 MP, this much zoom. Who is going to use it? And how many times in a year? It's all about, okay, I want the best camera. I pay this shitload of money and get it. Okay, that's what it is. So you can actually, if you understand your customers' preferences, you can really make a lot of money. I mean, without cheating them. You're not cheating them. You're giving them a choice, right? You could buy this as well. So all these examples are to show that you have to be segment specific. This is always my strength, okay? In sense, I feel this is my accomplishment in setting up my initial business. If I didn't understand it right, I might have faltered. I had a good understanding of segment, so I kind of managed to get past that phase, is what I think. So this is very, very important. Making sense? And then is the next best alternative. I already spoke about it. Like, you know, in my example, I want to show you this. So I wanted to get this OLED 77 in 2020. I went to Reliance and I asked, and they quoted me this price. 77 OLED. 65 OLED was just around 5 lakhs. But 77 was very rare and they were the only guys, so they had this as the quoted price. I didn't buy it then. I said like this, it's a lot of, I mean, it's waste. So I ended up buying something else. But then now, this is their pricing. 23. 20 to 23, what changed? You cannot say manufacturing costs reduced. You cannot say any of those. I mean, even if it's reduced, it's maybe 1 lakh it can reduce. Can it go from 13 lakhs to 5.15 lakh? Novelty gone, and it's a very good point, novelty gone, but still this came. Samsung came with the OLED. At that time, LG was the only OLED with 77 inch in India. Now this came, so I have ended up buying this by the way, but this came for a different price and they have no option but to reduce it. Correct? So competition, even though, but they made the most for 3 years, right? Like they made the most. It's not that I hate this TV now because they charge me more. I mean, at that time they were the only ones, they wanted to make the most. If you have that kind of a temptation to get a 77 OLED, just pay for it. And all the politicians did. But we cannot do it. So we ended up buying something else and then it reduced. So what I'm saying is value-based pricing is also subjected to competition and the next alternative. And the next example that we are going to see is something that we all know. I don't know how many people are like old enough to understand that we used to pay a lot for data, right? We used to pay damn lot money for data. And it's so frustrating to know how much we have paid, okay? And now these guys came, when Reliance came, everything kind of, went for a drain. Why? Because there was someone else who were able to offer a lower price. I had a call from Airtel. I mean, I'm so lazy, I don't go check for prices and all. But I had a call from Airtel and said, we are offering you a deal. What is that? You just pay $499 now. So what am I losing? You get the exact same plan that you've been using. For 10 years, I was paying $999 plus taxes. And all of a sudden, they said $499, you get the same plan. And that time, I felt like an idiot. I felt, why have I been paying $999 a month for 10 years? And all of a sudden, it's now $499. So, but competition drives your pricing as well, right? And that's obvious. But you need to be awake. You need to be quite awake. You could have taken one judgment today, have a pricing, but that doesn't mean that's going to be for eternity. If someone else comes, if market dynamics change, if your segment changes, you need to be quite proactive as well. Is that making sense? Yeah? I hope I'm making sense. Any questions? Yeah, thank you. You saved me. Yeah.
So, how to judge it? Is it because without product, if I go, they just ask the price, they will tell the minimum price. But maybe if I go with the product, actually if I am selling to it, maybe that time we will think about the cost. So, is always trial and error
No, not really. So next thing that we are going to look at, how to ascertain the willingness to pay. There are some techniques. Okay. Of course, one of the things you did mention is, you did touch upon is survey, surveying people. That's a good way to ascertain willingness to pay. Let's say you are traveling 1 hour to office and someone is coming with some innovation that will make your travel time half. They will usually take a survey to say, if we do this, how much are you willing to pay? How much will you pay? That's kind of surveys you would have seen, right? All the questionnaires and surveys is all to ascertain the segmenting. So surveys is one, conjoins, and there are quite a few things we can talk. That's going to be technical. This session, my idea was, if you could understand this is what I have to work, then I'm happy to even share you some technical approaches on how to get the pricing. I'm sure, so the professor who spoke before me is actually taking value-based pricing, he said. Okay, you could actually reach out to people and ask, and I'm happy to share as well. But at least we know that this is the approach. But I'll quickly touch on that in the last step. Okay. Thanks. And then, so differentiation, again, commodity is the last thing we want to be. I'm a little against being in a commodity business because it's quite hard. I've seen that personally. But what can we do to differentiate? Okay. This is again, the one that we know. Samsung, Oppo, really what's the difference? I don't know. I'm just used to Samsung because I have been using it. But what is the difference between this? Brand, I mean, I don't know if is there a substantial difference? It's it's just what they have created, right? So it's you. How do you differentiate? iPhone has at least done some very tricky things. Okay, iPhone is tricky. At least they have a price premium. They command it. In the US, my friends used to say, we don't even get a reply in a date if we use Snapchat with Android, because it doesn't give a blue tick, and only for blue ticks we get a response. They said, like, this is a practical problem. They said, why we have to go for iPhone? But other phones, what's the real difference? Samsung versus Oppo versus OnePlus versus Xiaomi, I don't know. But there is some difference that people are perceiving. Similarly, this is for people who are in this SaaS products. It's very hard to differentiate. Whatever you try to say, there will be 10 other companies who will say the same. This is all CRM systems, like HubSpot and Salesforce and Zoho CRMs and things like that. How do we really differentiate? It's quite difficult. But Salesforce and a few others have managed to differentiate. So SAP, Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce, these people charge a huge price compared to others. I'm sure some of you might know this. How do they command it? Because, of course they do a lot of, the branding is important, but it's not just about the branding. They do, so there's something called, I'm sure you know, vertical integration and horizontal integration. Like if you take your value chain, so I have a CRM, and then the next steps in a customer's journey, they have integration to it. So if I take Microsoft Dynamics ERP, then it integrates with its Office suite, it integrates with its business intelligence suites. So that integration, those kind of things. If your product is quite similar, even though it's not a commodity, if it's quite similar to others, then you need to think of other ways to differentiate yourself. And that's when you can command a price. Is that making sense? So if I take SAP is, let's leave SAP, but Salesforce. Salesforce has got, of course, a big brand, but compared to HubSpot, Salesforce charges 10 times more or even more. Why? Because they have got some good features. Good features is easy to copy, but they have got that integration, enterprise grade capabilities. So those kind of things is what we need to develop to call ourselves a differentiated product. And I just want to use this very simple example. I mean, this is, let's say, a Malaysian Airlines, and this is Qatar. Okay, I'd be happy when I travel Qatar and I pay for business class, as opposed to Malaysian Airlines, because I have to forcibly pay because there's no other option. Why? Both are pretty much flat seats, but these guys have a small door here. Have you seen? It's a small door which will make it like a cubicle. That will give you a first class experience. It's just a door, but that gives such a difference in, like, I pay the same money for both. But I feel so happy paying for these guys because I feel like I'm traveling in a first class. I'm getting a first class experience. That's a small POD, point of differentiators. Is that making sense? So you can identify small things that will make your product quite unique. And that's very, very important when you want to go with a value-based pricing. Okay, someone asked me, there was a startup which was talking about physiotherapists, like an aggregator platform for physiotherapists. And she was asking, what do you mean by value-based pricing in a physiotherapy? Okay, and I was just telling this. I kind of take physiotherapy sessions quite often, and there is a Spark Institute which is like 2 kilometers from my home. If I have to take my car, drive there, I just have to pay 1,200 for a session. But if they come home, I have to pay 2,500 for a session. But that laziness in me, I always prefer them coming home. And that's the value, right? Like, because I'm lazy, I'm okay to pay 2,500 for the same session, which is just 2 kilometers away. I could take the car, it will take me literally 5 minutes to go there. So you need to know who is that lazy bug whom you can charge more, and who is always budget conscious. Correct? So that's I was just telling, any business will have its own niche. So identifying who is that person whom you can charge more is going to be important. Now coming to the last question which you asked, how do I quantify it? That's the hard challenge. I'm not discounting that fact, but there are, as I said, extrinsic differences. Age, gender, income, education, place, these are easily quantifiable ones. If you are targeting like a high-end restaurant, if you are running a high-end restaurant, you know whom you are targeting. Your prices could be obviously higher. As long as you get a beachfront, have a fancy ambience, you get the people. That's easy. Like these are external differences, right? So if you have income information, education information, those are all easy things to gather. I don't know what your startup is, but any startup, you first thing is get the easy bits and pieces. You can get income information, demographics information. So if someone is in a particular area, if someone is in boat club, you know you can charge them more, right? I'm just telling, like, you know, you have to have external differences are easy to ascertain. So that's my first thing. And the second thing is the internal ones, the like the subtle ones, and those are hard to ascertain. Unobserved differences are hard to ascertain. And there are these, like, you know, these are the ones we cannot always do this, but there'll be references. You tell me any industry, I can try to find some relevance. But in my industry, as I said, I had a alternate product from UK, so that was my pricing indicator. Similarly, when we developed a product, we need to fix a pricing for it. And we had a tough challenge in front of us, okay? We built a software which modernized an existing software. There's an existing software which has been there for 20 years. We built a layer which modernized that, okay? And that original software was selling for $300 a seat. So it made it even harder for me to price my product. I cannot sell it for $300 a seat. There's no way I will survive if I do that. My average sell price will be around $8,000. And they are selling it for $300, which is even harder because there's an anchoring effect. Do you know what's an anchoring effect? If you start negotiation with someone, I'm sure you know the anchoring. If you start negotiating with someone, you first set a number, throw a number. That number become an anchor. And from there, it will be like up or down. Okay, as long as that number is within the bargaining zone, that number becomes the anchor. So if I look at something first, so I say 20,000 rupees, then you'll say, maybe reduce 5,000 rupees from there, or reduce 3,000. Your product may be just 8,000, but you set an anchor. This is an anchoring effect. I can read about it. So for me, the anchoring was really, really bad. $300 a year, and I have to sell. I have to ring my. So just information which is not published yet. It will be published on January 1st. My company has been, that product has been completely acquired by an Australian company. So we just completed the transaction a week back. We have signed everything. It's not published yet. Thank you. But that transaction happened, and one of my pitch that I gave them while pitching to acquirers, we converted a $300 value, like, you know, customer value. Like an average customer value was $300. We changed it to $7,000 in 4 years. That's not a joke. I mean, in my opinion, it's definitely not a joke because $300 was what people were willing to pay. And ours, we have, so that difference, it was quite hard. But how we did it was comparative products. So we will always say, I need to have a very strong messaging to say, that's not what you have to compare me with. You need to compare me with this. So I need to start with a different anchoring point and come down from there and sell it. Is that making sense? So getting the pricing, so if I was lame, if I was a bit afraid, I would have definitely gone around 300 and maybe 400, 500. But I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to do what an industry will be willing to pay for this product. So we built a web-based platform, which is in par with something like a Jira and Confluence. I don't know how many people you know, but there are industry tools which are very similar to this. We built a tool that is in par with that. I was very sure it is in par with that. So my pricing was based on that product, not the product that I was trying to modernize it. Is that making sense? So you need to have your benchmarks right. So instead of us doing everything from scratch, think of who is your comparable offering and do your pricing from there. I'm quite lazy, okay? I always tell my team, we don't have the money to do the R&D. We are just 100 people. And to do a product like this, they have like 3,000 people sitting in Confluence. In Atlassian, there will be 3,000 people sitting to do the same kind of a product. We are just 108 people. And then I will say, we don't have the money to do the R&D that Atlassian and others will be able to do. But they have done the R&D. You see the outcome. Now see that and learn from it. it's not necessarily we have to reinvent the wheel, right? So you can look at what they have done. Use the existing ones. They have done, so if they are introducing a feature, I will go and dissect it. Say, why have they done it? It's not what they have done it. Why have they done it? What is the customer rationale that has made them do this? This is how I look at it. Okay, they have changed the menu from left to right. That's not what we learned. Why did they change from left to right? What is the customer behavior that is making them to change from left to right? If you think on that direction, I'm just talking from a small startup's perspective. I don't have the money to do that R&D, but I can definitely dissect someone's R&D. Okay, it's recorded, it's not the right thing to do, but that's what we have to do. We need to learn what others have done and then do it. So if you can't do a survey and focus groups, whatever offering you are in, there will be a benchmark. In India or in rest of the world, there will be a benchmark, right? Start from there. And then ascertain what is your sweet zone to play here. Okay, do not, okay, another thing with startup is discounting. My sincere request is do not discount, give it for free. Okay, I think I told you, some on this as well. What is a better offer? Okay, this is very, very important. I'm sorry, this is very important. You get this at 50% off, or you buy this and get this free. Both are pretty much same. You buy this, get this free. This is a better offer than giving this for 50% off. Why? If I get this marker at 50% off for 25 rupees, next time if they ask me 50 rupees, I'll feel bad. I just bought it for 25 rupees, why am I paying 50 rupees? That's a wrong indication. You pay 50 rupees, you get this for free. Next time I charge you 50 rupees, are you okay? Because you just feel, okay, that offer is not there, but I'm still paying 50 rupees. Is that making sense? As a startup, the mistakes we do is discounting. You get your pricing right. If they ask you for a negotiation, which they will definitely do, and Indians are really bad negotiators, they will ask you to lower your price. Do not lower your price. Add more. Okay, add more service, but keep the pricing as much as possible in this. Give more free, add more service. I used to do this. When I sell my product, I was still a consultant. My daily rates were quite high, but I used to offer 2 weeks of free consultation to sell my product. They know if they have to just get that consultation, they have to pay me a shitload of money. But because I'm selling my product, I used to offer myself for free, which I can do. It's my product, for God's sake. So that is a better offer. But in their mind, the product is having a price and they will be willing to pay it. Am I making sense? Okay. So there's all these theories. I'm quite nervous when I talk about theories because I know the practical difficulty in doing it. As a startup, I cannot shell out the money to do all the R&D. I always learn from what has been done. But there are data available. If you dig deeper, for example, this is Amazon Prime's market survey that they published. They published a WTP, willingness to pay, based on annual salary. Okay, they did it for themselves and they have published it. This is super useful information if I have to do a product and sell it to that segment. It's not necessarily that I will be charging $88 at this point. What I know is for someone who is earning $80 versus someone who is earning $180, this is how much their willingness to pay, percentage difference. So if your product is going to be priced for $10 here, you can easily price it for $20 here. That's my derivation based on this data. It's not that this data will feed me my results directly, but you can infer it. Is that making sense? Okay. I know I'm bombarding you with a lot of theory, but this is just these are things which we learned. And in your customer's mind, you can have many levers that you can play. You need to just, in my case, when I position my training, I know my customers' levers are hands-on sessions, industry example. So I know what my customers' levers are. I deliberately kept them out of the 29,000 offering. So I positioned it in the 49 and 59, whatever, but I didn't write it in the 29,000. Why? Because I know this is my customer's lever. So you need to identify what is your customer's lever and then write an offer. If you are concerned, like me, I was concerned that if I price it too high, people may walk away. I had an array of products. I mean, prices to choose from, same product, but you know what is picking up. And just have you, this is very important. What is their lever? What is their parameter that they will really respond to? Is that making sense? So every industry, every product will have a lever, a few levers. You need to play to it. Identifying that is the key. So to your answer, I don't know if we can shell out the money to do the R&D, but there is definitely inspirations we can take. But you as a founder, you as a startup person, you will be definitely able to understand what your customers' levers are. If you don't understand, then you need to go back and think. For me, for sure, I know what my customers' levers were, and that's why I invested my money and effort to build something. Correct? Okay. I don't know what you're doing with time, but closing comments, as usual. Only thing I'll say is this: theories are just theories. But in my opinion, I have missed a few things because I didn't apply my learning. But retrospectively, after I applied the learning and combine it with some practical examples, it really worked. So if I have to give you a recommendation, if you haven't done, please do STP today. Okay, if you are intending to do a business, please do your segmenting at least. Okay, think about it. What are my segments? Who are my targets? Positioning is a bigger exercise. Who are my targets? You definitely need to understand, and then for that target, what will be my revenue model? What will be my pricing model? A combination is always better. Okay, that's all I want to share. Any questions?